Yeah, it's like he raises like a huge concept. I know that's why people love him because he takes the whole that part.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Moby with Lifestyle TV, and today we have great guest with us. He's a hypnotherapist. Let's welcome him. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yes. Thank you. If you can tell us about yourself to my audience, that would be excellent.
Absolutely. Well, my name is J. Robert Parker. I am a union certified master hypnotist with the Hypnotherapist Union Local 472, and I own Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy and Research LLC. And as you said before, I'm a hypnotherapist.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So tell me, how did you start doing hypnotherapy?
That's always the first question, and that's always the most interesting one. So, kind of long story short, I was out of work at the beginning of the pandemic because of the industry that I worked in, and started reading tarot cards professionally, and started noticing that I genuinely liked helping people. That I wasn't telling fortunes, so to speak. That I was using the archetypes of the tarot cards to reframe people's issues to them, and
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to find a way just to do that. So a hypnotherapy college fell into my lap, and I decided to attend their 720-hour post grad program. And here I am today. I fully believe I found my calling in this. I love what I do, basically.
Hmm. Okay, well, that's very nice. So, also tell me a little bit about your passion for hypnotherapy portion versus, behavior therapy or cognitive therapy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the way that hypnotherapy really differs from like cognitive therapy or traditional therapy is it goes straight to the source, basically. Everything exists only within our mind. All reality, all perception of self, everything is a series of associations and learned behaviors.
Mhm.
And the quickest way to
Mhm.
change these associations and learned behaviors to a positive way is through hypnosis. Even Sigmund Freud uh, it had to admit that hypnotherapy was the only viable way that psychoanalysis would be accessible to the general public. That psychoanalysis itself was too lengthy a process, too expensive a process for the general public, and that we needed a shortcut. The shortcut exists in hypnotherapy.
Mm. So they did. So you think that has better outcomes than the cognitive behavior therapy?
Well, the statistics are that after 600 sessions, psychoanalysis has a 33% success rate.
Mhm.
After, I think it was 16 sessions, cognitive behavioral therapy has an 88% success rate.
Mhm.
After 6 sessions, hypnotherapy had a 96% success rate. So it it is not. I believe it's another piece. I don't believe
Mhm.
that there's any one type of therapy that stands out necessarily as superior to the other ones. Because, for
Mhm.
example, cognitive behavioral therapy is absolutely wonderful. I integrate parts of that into my own practice.
Mhm.
So there's no one thing that I believe really is superior. And it really boils down to the individual. For some people, traditional Freudian psychoanalysis might be the best
Mhm.
route to healing. And if that's their best route, go for it.
Yeah, no, that is important. And sometimes we on patients we have to use multiple.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
advantage is, and I always tell, all the therapies, you know everybody is genetically unique. So
Hmm.
some therapy might work for you, some might not. So whatever works and what doesn't work, we might have to sometimes use combination,
And that's why it's
and
important to
yeah,
educate, to have a
yeah,
variety of modalities at your disposal, because you never know
yeah,
what someone
yeah, but
needs.
yeah, one. And sometimes, with so I think I feel that that is the biggest thing. By the way, there was time in my life I also tried to learn hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And I remember I was trying on my younger brother,
Mhm.
and at the end I asked him, "Are you hypnotized?" And he slapped on me. He was a little kid at that time. He said no. So that's funny, but I had, like, when I was kid, it was like, we read about hypnosis,
Yeah,
hypnotherapy, and say, you can change somebody, you can literally change someone, and that's what motivated me to
oh,
basically
absolutely.
check on that. And so I wanted to see if that's gonna work or not. But
Yeah,
anyways, that is important to know, right? So
absolutely.
so tell me a little bit more about what are the applications for hypnosis or hypnotherapy did you try, or will you try?
Absolutely. So, the first and most obvious one that people normally think of is habit control. Stop smoking, lose weight, things like that. Um, I also do a lot of work with overcoming trauma. People that
Mm,
have combat related PTSD, postpartum depression, things like that. Um, Another thing that I work with is many businesses with like
mm,
success oriented classes. A lot of the work I do isn't just the one on one sessions, it's also
mm,
I teach classes, I do lectures, I try to. There's this whole world of the subconscious that it's our everyday life. It's because,
mm,
as I said, everything's in our head. So
mhm,
to know that, to understand that, and how the way that works in day to day life, in everyday life, it's very important that we all have that understanding of what influences us, what we learn from, how we learn, things like that.
mm. Yeah, yeah, and those are, now I want to, for people education purpose, if you can describe what is the how the people actually change a simple process into habit, or what is the brain learning mechanism involved here?
Awesome question. So the concept of habit is something that I very much talk about when someone first becomes my client,
Okay.
because we need that repetition and that reinforcement at first. The
Mhm.
standard number you hear is 21 days. That we
Okay.
need that willful repetition for that 21 days to form those new habits, those new assumptions of self. And really, if you think about it, a habit is just that assumption of self. The
Mhm.
what we do, what we as a person are capable of what we do. Are we someone that smokes, that chain smokes? Is that how we identify? Or do we identify as somebody who makes healthy choices in terms of their body and their health? And there's a difference really in how we view ourselves. Um, it's something that I refer to a lot, and in hypnosis we call it homeostasis. And it's our sense of normal, so to speak. It's what we view as our world, what our world consists of. And again, it's, does your world consist of cigarettes and unhealthy eating, or does your world consist of healthy behaviors and practices? And it's the way you assume that sense of self.
So, and so for people to understand, so let's say if somebody walks or does one thing, or let's say, for example, somebody smokes a cigarette for one day, so
Mhm.
it changes to habit if they keep on doing for 21 days same time. I mean, similar versus they keep doing
Yeah,
intermittently.
I would argue that it's way quicker to pick up bad habits than it is to change into good ones. I would say that to gain a bad habit probably takes way less time than 21 days, because you're dealing with other things. Because bad habits aren't hard; they're easy generally. That's kind of one of the things that makes them bad habits. They're very easy to do. So, yeah.
And that, that's a very good question. So I want to ask you about that, is why our brain is attracted to easily to let's say if I tell somebody to drink milk,
Hmm.
they won't, even if I pay the money, they won't do it for 21 days. But if I tell somebody to drink alcohol or smoke, they might be a little reluctant unless they have an allergy reaction to it.
Hmm.
They won't do it, but they might just do it. So this is very very intriguing that our mind somehow gravitates more towards wrong thing first.
Well, it's the reward system, because a lot
Mm.
of bad habits tend to have an immediate reward. You take the shot, you smoke the cigarette, you have a tangible reward to that. You have that pleasant feeling.
Okay.
Whereas a good habit, you might not see the reason or the reward right away. Now, maybe
Mm.
not even after that 21 days might you see the reward for that good behavior, those good habits, but it's reinforcing that. It's enforcing the knowing that this behavior will lead them to a more positive life.
Mm. Mm. So you think that is because there are different parts of the brain, like the reward system is activated more towards things which basically create you habit versus those which won't do that. So so there is association to that.
Absolutely, absolutely, there is, and it's the association to pleasure. We go for the easiest pleasure, and what's the easier pleasure? Drinking and smoking and partaking in all of these things, or doing the often difficult work towards improving your life in general and having those rewards come to you. One result is more immediate than the other, but one result is healthier and more positive than the other as well.
Mm. And so with this, that is interesting, because the for eating, let's say for eating disorders, same thing.
Mhm.
There are rewards center activated by carbs, not by
Yeah.
your protein or anything. So that's
Yeah.
why people get addicted to carbs with stress, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And the stress association is a very interesting thing. I deal with that a lot with habit control, because so often our habits are stress reactions, something to counteract that cortisol that our body's producing.
Mm.
And it's sometimes the habits we use to do that are just as deadly as the cortisol itself.
Yeah, and that is true. With cortisol is another one. It
Oh yeah.
produces sugar and then
Mhm.
activates you, feeling good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Exactly.
ever took prednisone, but I took it. I felt so good for a whole week. You
Yeah.
know, as soon as you wear off from prednisone, you feel crashing,
Yep.
and I think that's the problem with these steroids, is
Oh yeah.
that you feel like $1 million person just for that time.
That's kind of part of the problem with a lot of things. Like if you think about it with like energy drinks, you
Yeah.
get that energy for a superficial moment, but then the negatives of the crash far outweigh any positive that you were able to have.
And those definitely that play very important role. Also, let's talk a little bit about difference between different sexes, about how they deal or react to hypnosis.
Well, it's interesting in this because I don't really notice a difference in the genders. And what I
Okay.
do notice is the literal and metaphorical school of hypnosis that I come from has a system called the ENP system of suggestibility and behavior. And we all kind of fall somewhere on this spectrum. And that determines a lot of things, everything from the way we need to be spoken to in hypnosis, to the way we learn, to our sociological needs. And the the more common, like, masculine and feminine traits are expressed as the emotional and the physical side. So it has less to do with where you stand physically and more where you stand mentally, because you can have emotional men and women, you can have physical men and women. And this that's really the main difference that you encounter in my work, is this. And it can be boiled, we see this dichotomy in a lot of places. It can be defined as introverts and extroverts, because that's their surface level behavior. Emotionals tend to be more introverted, physicals tend to be more extroverted. And that's by all means not the totality of their behavior, but that tends to be their more defining trait.
Yeah, and that is true. And also maybe the age group, would you emphasize different age group respond better to hypnosis?
um I think that's something I've never really considered. um Everyone responds very well. It's just a matter of how to get them to respond. Uh, Working with an older population, they will respond to nostalgia a lot better. Working with a younger set, they will work with experience a lot better. So it really depends on, really, with age, as to what you really want to give them in the experience of hypnosis.
Mm. Okay, so what do you, so but you have seen success with all age groups.
Oh, absolutely. There's not really any age group or gender group or any type of specific group that I see more or less success with. Uh, Hypnosis is a natural process. It's one of the things that I really stress, is that it's not magic, it's not metaphysics, it is a natural expression of the human mind.
Mhm.
And because of this, we all enter into hypnosis at some point, at varying points during the day, some of us much more than others. And we all possess this ability to create change with our own minds. And where my role comes in to create that change, or to help you create that change more accurately, is the understanding of the language of your mind. And so there isn't really a group that can be considered more effective. It's more individual, because while I may not have great success with a client, I might refer them to one of my peers, and they'll have fantastic success with them. It's a very personal thing, hypnosis.
Okay. Also, tell me a little bit about how do you basically deal with certain disorders better with hypnosis versus, are there certain which really respond well?
Um, well, for example, like, what disorder?
Let's say for insomnia.
Insomnia. That's one I've had a lot of success with. That, like, I tell my clients with insomnia, hypnosis is not sleep, but it is of sleep. It is the gateway to and from sleep.
Okay.
So being able to affect the subconscious entrance and exit to sleep is very effective with insomnia, without the intervention of drugs, without the intervention of anything extreme. Because part of it is, all the insomniacs that I've met, there's something that keeps them awake, be it
Yeah.
their brain won't slow down, their body won't relax. And depending on what that individual is experiencing, I can directly address that in hypnosis and point out to them, this is you. You did this with my guidance, but this is something you are absolutely capable of doing. And oftentimes with my insomniac clients, I'll have to make a recording of myself being able to help guide them to sleep at first, because once you have someone in hypnosis, it's the barest nudge into sleep. Uh, and just have them listen to that at night. And so after a while, they gain that association. They gain the understanding that they are capable of maintaining this sleep process. And after a while, they don't need the recording.
Okay, very nice. Now, do you also have to listen to their dreams or dream interpretations with
Yes,
hypnosis?
I do a lot of dream interpretation. I was taught a very interesting method. I don't use like a prescribed set of books and definitions, because how really can you? Uh, for example, if a book says a snake is a sign of evil to somebody in a dream, what about the snake handler? What about the person who keeps pet snakes? Is that still a negative symbol to them? Of course not. But what I do is a more personalized thing. So there is your dreams come in phases. In the final phase of your dreams is referred to as your venting phase. It occurs right before you wake up, and that's where my interest comes in. So whenever I'll have my clients write down the dreams that they have right before waking, and we'll go through together and we'll examine all of the symbology that exists in this dream and what that means to them, because sometimes you just need another party to help you examine yourself. And I find that dream therapy and dream interpretation is incredibly useful towards to pointing me towards what the real source of someone's problem is, because it's their subconscious attempting to reason it out, attempting to process it. And so just being able to understand what your subconscious is saying is vital.
Okay. Now, is there a possibility in dream you could also predict some future, or is this more of educated or somehow guessing?
I mean, I myself have not, to my knowledge, that I can really recall offhand, had any predictive dreams. I have had people very close to me who have. And that's one of those very fascinating things to me, that it's going to be a minute before we totally understand that completely. But it's, to me, the questions fascinate me more than the possibility of answers. Because if we can predict events with our dreams, with our subconscious, what does that mean? What does that point to? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the questions are fascinating.
Yeah, and that is fascinating. So it is actually a pleasure talking to you. So tell me any final thoughts you have for my client. So
What I really like to leave people with is, one, the idea that hypnosis is natural. This isn't what you see on stage and in the movies. It's a very natural process. And the thing that I really like to live people with is, be mindful of your thoughts. Be mindful of the way that you think about yourself and others, and keep those negative thoughts out of your head. And we talked about habit formation just for 21 days. Stop yourself whenever you have that negative thought, and make yourself reevaluate that thought. And you'll find that as you have those more positive thoughts, that it becomes easier to be positive. And anyone that wishes to speak to me more, they're welcome to. My website is www.twinravens.org, and that has all the ways to get a hold of me, all of my past interviews. And I encourage anyone that has a curiosity about what I do to reach out.
okay, well, thank you for coming to our show, and this player. We could talk dream interpretation another episode.
Oh yeah,
Love to
absolutely.
have you
I'd
for
love to,
that.
Dr. Moby. That'd be fun. I love talking about that stuff.
Okay, because I get a lot of questions on it, and
Oh
I
yeah,
mean
of
I'm a
course.
sleep doctor, and they ask me what is the dream interpretation. I mean I do some, but I have so many questions on. I will definitely get you for another show
Oh
for
yeah, I
that.
would I
Thank
would
you
love to
for
be able to talk to you about that.
thank you for coming to our show.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
doctor. I'll talk to you
Take
soon.
care.